We appreciate your joining us on a busy day. This might have been bad timing. We might have shot for last week before school was in session. So I'm sure it's been a busy day at the school district and at the offices. We'll begin with a roll call. Superintendent Rattel, if we could start with you. Or
Keith Rattel, Superintendent.
Hey, Van Buren.
Callie Hales.
Dave Sewell.
Gary Garrett.
Julie Rash.
McKay Jensen.
Taz Murray, Board Member.
Marsha Jeffries, Board Member. Louise Jorgensen.
Gary Wilson, Assistant Superintendent.
Stephanie Bryant, Business Administrator.
Matt Taylor, Council Staff.
Karen Chapani, Council Staff.
Corey Norman, work in the Mayor's Office.
Carolyn Brown, Intern.
David Walter, Redevelopment.
Ryan Harvey, Council Staff.
And Kay Van Buren has offered to give an invocation for our meeting.
Our Heavenly Father, we thankfully bow our heads to Thee this day for the opportunity to meet. We thank Thee for the opportunity to serve. We're grateful for those who give so much to make this city and this community a good place to live. We pray for Thy blessing upon this meeting today, that we may work together in finding solutions to problems and into continuing the good things that are happening. We're thankful for the food we have to eat. We pray that that's blessed, that it will nourish our bodies. Now please help us this day to do good things. We ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Kay.
Got a chair for you.
Maybe just sit. He's over there.
I called him Jeanette. So here I am in the discussion. And I text McKay because I'm sorry. I can tell Virginia about texting back and forth. I need to keep.
We may have a couple of additional council members join us. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Good.
So, you have the agenda in front of you. We have 5 items for discussion and review this afternoon. Maybe before we connect to those, would love to hear from Superintendent Rattel just an update on this first week of school, how things are going around the city today.
First day and a half.
First day and a half, yeah.
It's been a good start to the year. We try to get out into all of the schools for the first few days. We're monitoring enrollments. We have a large number of students. Certainly at the high school level, we have different numbers happening at different elementary schools, some up a little bit, some down a little bit. We make staffing adjustments about 10 days into the year after we know for sure that we have all the no-shows completely out of the system. We might actually start doing that with 1 or 2 of the schools early next week because we feel like they've been on top of it. And they have some pretty compelling needs. But sometimes what we want to do is put that in the overall context of the district enrollment, not just a given school. We are up and running with footings at Sunset View and more dirt work. We had a little glitch at Rock Canyon, but we're back on board now. And lots going on.
Great.
I heard enrollment figures at MU are way up this year. Well, our classes are full, but I don't, and that's the good news because it seems that what they're reporting, and I'm meeting with them tomorrow morning, what they're reporting is based on actual kids in classes. So that's good. It's not just kids on the rolls. The rolls from kind can include an awful lot of no-shows, but we're building this off who's actually there. It's Timothy that might get the green light early on to add some staff if we need to reduce some numbers.
Excuse me, just one thing.
Amazing how much flexibility you have to build into your process and system here during this first 2 weeks of school. That's remarkable.
And at some point we have to balance class sizes because if you have 45 in one English class and 22 in the other, we don't like changes to their schedules, but we have to make sure that we have pretty balanced loads.
Right, great. Well, thanks for that update and for the great work you're all doing there.
Thank you.
We'll be joined shortly also, I forgot to mention, by Kim Santiago, who is traveling in Spain, probably with
With
Corbin.
my
Is
son.
Can we get Corbin on the phone too?
Yes, please, because I don't think he took enough clothes. I really don't. I keep doing his wash and his pile's really big at home. So I'm thinking, what did he take
But
today?
his clothes are super big.
That's
too.
true, but it doesnn't matter. He sweats a lot.
He took your credit card, that's all.
Is this boy not in college or doing his wash?
He lives at my house to save money to get married someday.
Right.
That's the goal. We live like a block away from BYU. So.
Yeah.
Hi, Kim, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm just.
All right, great.
So Kim, when we were with you in an earlier meeting, you said, can you hear me okay, Kim?
Okay.
You said that you were on a bus. We need to know if Corbin is there. Does he have enough clothes?
Corbin definitely has enough clothes.
Yay! Hi, Kim. Tell him his mother says hello.
He's doing great. He's well fed. He's well clothed. And he's super fun. He's been doing well.
Yeah.
Pretty proud of him.
Well, at least as long as you're feeding him, I'll love you forever because he's a big boy to feed and keep full.
That kid can eat. I told him you must have 3 refrigerators at home. He said, oh, we do. I'm like, your husband. We do.
Yeah.
We do. 2 in the garage and 1 in the house. And 1 I pull my car out so they can't open it because that's where the real food is.
So,
I have a whole different set for you.
well, thanks, Kim. And I keep up the great work there supporting the team. I think I read a good report this morning that they're doing good things.
Yeah.
So-
Well, the 2 days they played so far.
Wow,
I
that's
just
great.
get texts from my kids saying, Corbin is horrible. Corbin is, he should have had 22 points. He only
Yeah.
had 16. You know, sibling
Yeah,
love.
yeah. All right. Well, we're just starting the agenda, Councilmember Santiago. On item 1, this is on the proposed RAP tax. To bring the school board up to date, the council did vote on Tuesday night by a vote of 5-0 with 2 abstentions to place this item on the election on the ballot for November. And we asked our city CAO, Wayne Parker, to do a brief presentation this afternoon. This is a report the mayor's office gave to the council last year to just kind of bring you up to speed on what this proposed RAP tax includes. And then we're going to ask you for a favor. All right, Wayne, we'll turn the time to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to share just a couple of thoughts with you about the RAP tax. First, let me apologize. I've been off with my grandkids for a week, so the last time I sat at my desk was the day we met in the school board to talk about the RDA project. And today's my first day back, and so I'm playing a little bit of catch up, but thank you for letting me do that. First of all, just to give you a quick background on the RAP tax. RAP tax, RAP is an acronym. It stands for Recreation, Arts, and Parks. It is authorized by state statute to allow the voters in any county or municipality, when the county opts not to do a countywide RAP tax, to enact a 1/10 of 1 cent sales tax. So, which means it's $10 on every 1,000. Is that right? Adam, just yeah, I think so.
No,
No,
$1.
$1 on every 1,000. $1 on every 1,000.
1 cent for $10.
Okay, right. So $1 on every $1,000 spent to create a pool of money that can be used for the purposes defined in the statute, which largely are zoos, which we don't have one. Now, there are some people in Salt Lake County who think there's one up on the hill, but we absolutely disagree with that. And so we don't have a zoo, but we do have recreation, arts, and we have parks. And so the proposal, which has been advanced to the council, which will now be placed on the ballot, is to enact a RAP tax effective January 1. The tax would actually not be collected, as I recall, until sometime in the first quarter. Or do you recall for sure?
I'm sorry,
When the tax starts getting collected? If it's enacted in November,
Isn't it,
is it January?
I thought it was a little later than that. but-
Yeah, I think so. Early in the first quarter of next year. The proposal generates, on a fiscal year basis for us, on an average, about $1.25 million annually. Again, that escalates, starts lower than that, escalates with the economy over the 10-year life of the RAP tax. It would have to be reauthorized after 10 years. Statute only allows it to be enacted for 10 years at a time. And so assuming all went well during the first 10 years, then it would be put back on the ballot in 10 years to be authorized for a second round. So we've put together a concept for the RAP tax. Actually, let me take one step back. Given the opportunity for a RAP tax and our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which was just adopted by the council last year, the administration came up with a 10-year plan for Parks and Recreation, including the RAP tax as one funding component. There are other funding components, including general fund dollars, sale of properties, impact fees, a variety of other sources. And so we came up with a 10-year master plan for Parks and Recreation capital expenditures. And then the RAP tax is a significant slice of that. And so again, we wanted to talk today a little bit about the RAP tax and what it generates and how it would be used based on this proposal. So essentially, the RAP tax is being forecasted about 2/3 for improvements to existing facilities. So those could be things ranging from increasing the size of trailheads, to doing some improvements and widening along the Provo River Parkway Trail, to replacing picnic pavilions, restrooms, playgrounds, sports fields, just basically upgrading existing infrastructure to make it more usable for our community. And then beyond those kind of upgrades of existing facilities, there's about 15% proposed for the first 10 years costs associated with operating and maintaining 3 new parks, which are being proposed to be funded by impact fees. That would be the expansion of Bicentennial Park, the North Canyon Road Park that we've just acquired some property for over the last several years, and the sports park in Southwest Provo. Is that right?
The one, the sports.
Here's the list right here.
Okay.
Yeah, the list is right there.
Operating.
Okay, there we go. Okay, Stutz
Park.
Park. Again, Spring Creek Park, which is under construction currently. It's been acquired, will be under construction shortly. Lake Canyon Park, which is under construction now. And Foothill Park, which is scheduled to begin shortly with existing resources. So one of the things the council was concerned about was, can we afford to build new parks without providing ongoing O&M cost? Basically what we said is, well, for that first 10-year period, we'll provide O&M out of the RAP tax and transition gradually over to providing that O&M out of the general fund over time. And so basically the concept here is that we will largely build improvements to existing parks with the RAP tax, maintain the first few years of O&M cost on new parks. And then we've also provided a component for the arts, which is, I don't know if we've got that. Basically, it's for upgrades to the Covey Center and the creation of a downtown arts festival, which we would fund, again, expenses annually out of the RAP tax for that 10-year period. So that's a very quick summary. We've spent, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 hours in council meetings over the last several weeks talking about this proposal, but Brian told me I only had 10 minutes, so I had to do that. So that's the very quick summary. What we'd like to ask is for the board to consider endorsing the RAP tax at some point, and so we'd like to know, again, after today's presentation, what kinds of information would be helpful to you in helping to endorse this effort. We recognize that a lot of these parks facilities we're talking about are adjacent to schools, are utilized a lot by parents and students in the school areas, and so we see a real complementary opportunity here. The Arts Festival, I think, could be one we could work very closely on together with district personnel and arts instructors and teachers in the high school and secondary programs. So we'd be excited to have an ongoing dialogue with you about how this might be used to benefit both the district and the city.
And Wayne, maybe just to talk about where we have come from to get to the point that we are now. From the first presentation given to council maybe 6 months ago, there has been significant focus put on the arts programs in terms of percentage of the overall budget.
Right.
And that might be of interest to the board members as well. And then,
Tell me when you're ready and I can bring her back in.
all right, go ahead. Yeah, I'll just talk over it. There was another point too, but maybe could you refer to the additional focus that's been put on the arts?
Well, it's interesting, when we began to calculate, we were asked to try to identify within the city budget what we're already spending on arts programming through the general fund and other sources, and it's about $750,000 a year in subsidy to various art programs, whether that's the Covey Center, the arts events associated with Freedom Festival, our continuing work on things like the Rooftop Concert Series and those kinds of things. And so over that 10-year period, assuming that same funding level, that's about $7.5 million. We're proposing to, as you'll note here on the arts, put about another $1.5 million over that 10-year period into that. One of the things we'd like to do at the Covey Center, we've actually
You have reached the voicemail box of 801-836.
conversation with Sundance Film Festival about bringing some events
That's
to Provo.
great.
And the Covey Center will be the source, the location for those. And so we need to do some upgrades to the projection system and the sound system and other things to accommodate bringing Sundance part of Sundance to Provo. And again, the Arts Festival idea was an effort to be a kind of a grassroots outreach to the arts community and provide a venue for folks in the community to participate. So,
And then
we're doing quite a lot, and we see this as an opportunity to enhance that significantly.
And then my other point was relative to the bonding. I think we decided to
Right.
set that aside for now to
There was a
not.
concept advanced early on to bond for some of these park facilities so we can make a major splash up front, do it when interest rates were low and when construction costs are actually increasing faster than interest rates. Again, the thinking was we could make a really significant splash in the community in the first couple of years. We've kind of put that whole discussion aside for now and said if a future council decides at some point that makes sense, we'll have that discussion then.
Right.
But what we've provided up to this point now is a pay-as-you-go system, pay-as-you-go plan over that 10-year cycle.
I was just wondering, maybe you mentioned it if I missed it, but visionary projects.
Yeah, visionary projects are ones that we've been having a hard time trying to figure out funding for otherwise. So these would be things like the beach, a water
You
trail
have
park.
reached the voicemail box of
Well, a water trail park, which is something, it'd be kind of a whitewater sports park along the Provo River, where we could do whitewater kayaking and some of those kinds of things. And then we've provided a list of others that could at some point develop over time and might find themselves fitting into this or other funding sources. So, at
Taz,
this
did
point,
you have a
those are the
question
ones
too?
identified.
Taz, did you have a question?
Yeah,
too?
just
And then Michelle.
generally, it seems like you're almost doubling your budget with this RAP tax for parks and recreation stuff.
In terms of capital, that's probably true, not operating.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, you're raising almost twice as much as you're getting right now and everything else you're doing. Where'd you come up with the number? I mean, how did you come up with the number? It's pretty big.
The 10%, 10.
How'd you come up with, we're gonna raise it, we're gonna raise, what was it, $12 million?
Yeah, over 10 years. Right, that's essentially the equivalent of 1/10 of a cent sales
How'd
tax.
you come up with a number?
We just used our current sales tax revenue estimates. Again, this
Why
sales
12
tax,
million? Why is it at 5 million? Why isn't it 20?
because that's what 1/10 of a cent generates.
So the percentage is
So you-
dictated by statute,
We're
right?
stuck with the percentage.
So it's dictated by statute.
It's either or.
Yeah, it's a fixed percent.
So the statute defines it, 1/10 of a cent or nothing.
Then the next question was just, who reviews your operating costs on a regular basis? Now, who's sort of in charge of saying, hey, are we spending too much or not enough?
Yeah, well, I think again, that's done through, just like the school district, done through the budget process each year with the, the department reviewing, making proposals, and then the elected officials making the final decisions.
Council has a budget committee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And do you do like zero-based budgeting, or is it just like, hey, we did this last year, we're gonna implement next year? How does that work?
There's some of both.
Kind of a combination.
For existing facilities, it's more the latter. For new facilities, it's very much the former. We try to take a ground-up look and say, what does it cost us for X number of acres of turf grass? What does it cost us for, kind of a measure of what we're currently doing other places and how we could do it most effectively in a new facility. So again, we look for operating efficiencies. All of our new parks, for example, are all on the same computerized irrigation system, and so we can manage that at will from a smartphone, actually. So if it starts to rain and our rain sensors haven't picked that up, we can turn off the water on the smartphone and tell them not to proceed any further until we're ready to go again. So we try to again include all the new technologies and efficiencies we can with our new development parks.
Wayne, could you articulate for us, so if we endorse the
RAP tax.
the RAP tax, and I go back and someone stops me on the corner when I'm walking the dog, and say, what's the benefit to the school district for doing that? Why did you get involved there? What's the benefit? How does it benefit the schools outside of? I mean, I understand that a better community, but is there?
And again, we share a lot of facilities, and so our parks that are adjacent to the schools use during the day, and we use your property in the afternoons and evenings. And so I think there's been a long-standing effort to cooperate. You did endorse the recreation center bond election, and again, I think that same question could probably be asked there, as the same question could be asked about the council having endorsed the school bond. So again, I think we look at this as a very long-standing partnership, and hope that the district board sees it that way.
Thanks, Wayne. If I could just chime on a thought, I mean, we're continually asked in these meetings by the school board, what can we as a city do to improve the ability for families to stay, to grow, to not leave for other communities, and what is the council doing for us as a school board? And I would say this is probably one of those opportunities where we're saying, yeah, we are making an effort to improve this community so that we can give the school district a good base of students and other benefits.
I think Julie has a question, and then Michelle.
I'm just wondering, and it was all flipping around up there really fast, so I didn't see some of this, but you have a list of kind of intended projects where it's going to, how solid is that? Like, how was that determined, and to how like over the next 10 years, priorities could shift, and so.
Certainly could. The priority list was defined in our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which again was adopted just recently. These are the key priority projects which were listed there.
Was there a committee doing that?
I'm sorry?
Was that work of the council, or was there committees? Like
both, yeah, we hired a consultant. We had, wish Parks and Rec were here, I think we had, yeah, we had 30-some public meetings. We did a community survey. We did a lot of open houses to try to define priorities for existing upgrades and new parks. It was adopted by the City Council, and again, this would be, I guess in some ways subject to the annual budget process because these projects would have to be approved in the annual budget. And so if something rose to a higher level or sunk to a lower level, I think there's the flexibility to deal with that during the system. But I think this is our best case of what we believe needs to happen and when it needs to happen.
And are those kind of in priority order?
Generally speaking, they are in priority order. There is actually, as a part of our spreadsheet, we have programmed these improvements out over the 10-year cycle, and we'd be happy to share that with you as well, so you can see kind of where which park falls in the 10-year cycle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so my question was, I've been following your meetings, and when you did the vote on the RAP tax, 2 abstained, and I'm just curious as to why they abstained, if we can have that discussion, because the RAP tax is kind of, seems like it's a, Orem does it, it's kind of like a 1% off. It puzzled me why the whole board, I mean the whole City Council didn't support it. Is there a reason?
You want to go first? You want me to speak first?
I just want to hear
Callie
your
and I
feedback.
both abstained from voting. Now, we did not
I
vote
read
at our
that.
meeting the other
And I'm
night
so glad you're here because
on whether we, to support the RAP tax. The vote was whether to put the RAP tax on the ballot. Okay, so there's just a little, little miscommunication that's happened there. I've seen some of the chatter on that. And it wasn't a vote for or against the RAP tax. It was to put on the ballot. I have not supported the RAP tax from the very beginning, and
because you just
I've got a lot of reasons. I'll share them with you in just a second.
I would love to hear.
But I didn't feel like I wanted to vote against the process of putting it on it. But I didn't want to vote for it because I didn't want to appear as if I'm supporting the RAP tax. So that was my reasoning for the statement, the other night on council meeting.
Okay.
Kelly, we didn't talk, so I don't know what she did.
So the ongoing discussion is, well, the arts are subsidized by the city, but all of the parks and recreation are subsidized by the city big time. And I just think that to take what is already spent on the arts out of the total amount, say, look, you already received this amount, X amount, when the parks is a gargantuan, huge amount, that the arts should have a fair representation. What has recreation, arts, parks, the arts are not even close to a third of the budget that's coming. And I think to make a healthy, vibrant community, your arts are what draw people to your community, and they spend money and spend time, and it builds your community when the arts are supported.
So that's good for us to know, because when we hear the rat tax, we just, as a
Assume.
patron, you just assume the
Yeah.
recreation, arts, and the
Right.
parks will all be equally served.
Right. The initial presentation was 2%, and now it's up to
10%.
Right here's it
It
shows
goes
right
to
here
11.
11.2.
Now I need to understand how is it the tenure distribution sits at 5%, and then the rap tax distribution goes to 11.
So the tenure distribution includes funding from all 5 of those sources up in the chart above.
Right.
But if you just look at the rat tax distribution, then it's 11.9%.
Okay.
If you look at all funding sources, then it's 5.
My initial discussion was, wouldn't it be fair to make the arts 30%, a third of the amount? And the mayor said, well, let's look, let's consider, and then maybe even 20%. And I said, that sounds good, but then we'll take out what's already subsidized, and then it ends up with 11, 12%, which is better than 2, but I still think it could be more to the arts.
So it may be fair to say, Kelly, that
Good to
you
know.
are not opposed to the rat tax as a
Right.
principle, but rather to the distribution.
That's right,
Of
and
the
then
funds.
the CDBG funds, is that redevelopment funds that the city has held? It's separate.
Block grant,
It's
right,
the block
federal
grant.
dollars coming to the city.
Okay,
And they are limited to being expended in targeted neighborhoods. And so these would be park improvements in targeted neighborhoods.
so that's my concern mostly, is 1/10, and 1 cent on every $10, is that correct? And I just think that what other way does the arts get support through rap tax? Unless the amounts the city has in the budget.
Thank you, thanks.
Is there an unfunded program that you're thinking about, or is it just?
Well, there's minimal funded arts programs. It's small. It could be bigger and healthier. In the past, the philosophy of Pro as well, BYU handles the arts. BYU will handle the arts. And I think that the student quality productions and things, and their training and bringing artists, not the arts along, but the professional venue should be in our community, in the city. We should support it. Cedar City's done a magnificent job
Mhm.
building their program, and we could do more. We could be stronger.
The Orm has the Sarah Shell and all
Right.
those places.
The Hill Theater,
Mm-hmm.
a number of things, Storytelling Festival.
Love that.
There's lots of things, but we could be really famous and on the map if we gave it a little more thought and a little more funding.
So does Provo end at the light that goes up the canyon? Is that our boundary where we end, so we can't claim the Timpanogos? Dang it.
It's Orem
That's
Park,
not
yeah.
ours.
It's an Orm. Oh.
So we do, as a council, have a process that we're following now. McKay, did you have a?
I just wondered if somebody could give me sort of a quick geographic. So to the north of us, we have Orem with one. How far south? Is there anything? Not in Springville. Nothing in the south end of the valley, but then in Salt Lake County. Is that
Salt
correct?
Lake County's countywide.
Countywide.
There are a couple other cities in Utah County between here and Draper. I think American Fork has approved theirs. It was it Pleasant Grove or Linden's ballot? I'm not sure.
It's
They got
Linden's
approved
ballot
too.
this year.
Is it on their ballot this year?
I believe so.
Same behind.
I think in Lehigh too. So at least 2 other one community has adopted it here, and 2 more. Well, sorry, Orem and American Fork have adopted it, and then 2 more are considering it.
Dave?
I just want to make a quick comment about Mr. Murray's question about zero-based budgeting. Currently, the process, I think, is more incremental, starting from last year's budget. And I just wanted to mention the council is in the very, very early stages of exploring a philosophy called budgeting for outcomes, which is sort of a version of zero-based budgeting where you you start with your priorities and then try to rank the priorities and use the budget to achieve your highest priorities.
You guys told me that. That's good.
So the council then has a format that we need to follow by state statute, and our staff member Ryan has put that. It includes several dates and periods over the next 3 months before the election, timelines that we need to meet, including a brochure that will go citywide with an opinion piece representing the majority of the council in favor of the RAP tax. And Ryan, anything else to add to the timeline that we're following? Our current deadline is to get the opinion piece in by next week.
Right.
And
there has to be another public hearing.
We'll have a public hearing on October 20th as part of our council meeting.
And then it'll be on the ballot. And then
on November 3rd.
If the voters approve it, that doesn't mean that it's approved. The council still has to come back and
and then budget accordingly.
Right. So one argument I've heard many use in favor of the RAP tax is that many of us currently pay it as we shop in Orem or in Salt Lake City, and so we want to return the favor to our neighbors.
Mr. Garrett, if I add one clarification, I think is an important factor, that this is a proposal on how it will be used, and I think this is where things are moving towards, but it's not set in stone yet, and it won't be set in stone until, well, it'll probably only be set in stone on an annual basis as the annual budget is prepared and adopted, and even at that point, for this first half year of funding that we may receive, the council will, one, have to authorize the tax after the voters have approved it, and two, they'll have to budget accordingly. So there may be continuing dialogue about how best to actually structure this. I think my impression has been most of the council is fairly much on board with this plan, but again, not set in stone.
Great, thank you, Matt. Okay.
I think just to note on that opinion piece, the election is not an opinion piece of the council necessarily. Isn't it just a for statement for the RAP tax, against statement, and there's an against statement for the RAP tax?
Like we did with the bond.
So it's not really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did
I
with the bond.
chosen, or I volunteered to represent and prepare that against statement that will be prepared, and that will have to go in. And I have it's kind of 4 general reasons that I'm against it. I don't know if that's worth. The first reason is I think it's just very, very serious to add a new tax to anyone, even if it's 1/10 or 1%. A new tax, I think, is very seldom going to go away. And we're going to review this in 10 years, but in 10 years, when we're used to that money, I mean, it would be a huge thing to take away. I think. And so I think to add a new tax, I think there has to be a very compelling need. When you guys came to us on the bond for the schools, you had a very compelling need. We saw many things in disrepair, many needs. And when we decided to vote for the utility transportation fee that we added to the roads, we had compelling needs. As I look at the parks and recreation, with the exception maybe of the arts, but the parks and recreation, I think we have one of the best parks and recreation systems in the state. We've won national, not awards, but we've been commended by national associations. And so I'm having a hard time saying our park system has a compelling need to add a new tax on our people. That's one. Second thing is, the second thing is a tax increase right now, I think, is just a really hard thing. The school bond was passed last year. You've all seen the difference it's made on your property tax, the notices this year. I mean, and we knew it was going to be. That wasn't a surprise, but it is landed now, and people are trying to figure out how to pay for that. The state legislature passed a 5-cent a gallon tax increase this year that's hitting our citizens right now. They also passed a property tax increase. So the gas tax is going to raise about $105 million. The state property tax increase is going to raise $75 million. The county, well, I have considering here, but I think they've since voted, haven't they?
So
Yes.
the county now is
Put
going
it on
to
the ballot.
They're putting on-
they're going to put an
Influx as of
option on the ballot. There will be a 1/10 of 1% option for the county increase also. We have gone ahead because of some compelling needs to raise utility rates substantially. I mean, it'll be very, very hard increases on our citizens. And this list isn't exhaustive. There's some other things too. I'll finalize it. So I just think now, without a compelling need to add another tax, I just can't support it. And I've got constituents that have talked to me about that's just not Kay Van Buren's personal anti-tax position. It's a position that I input from. Probably the next thing would be, I think there's some inconsistency about our attitude and our intent as a council to go through our fees and go through our charges and make sure the fees represent the cost of what they're paying. In other words, if we're doing that with all the fees in the city right now. So if you use this, do you pay for it? And if you don't pay for it, then how does the city subsidize it? The RAP tax to me is like, the sales tax over here has nothing to do with recreation or parks. We're going to have people pay for it, and then we're going to use it for something over here. And I just see an inconsistency about our attitude over here with our funds and our fees. And now we're going to add this tax, and we're kind of going to go contrary a little bit to what we're trying to accomplish in the other areas. So our intent there, I think, is lacking just a little consistency. And the last thing probably is, this is more a philosophical thing, is I just don't think the economic situation in our nation is very stable. Our city is doing quite well, but it could have if the national economic situation turned very much, it would have a huge impact on our city. We have funds from the federal government in almost all areas. And if we get this tax in place, if things changed economically in the nation, I just don't think this tax for parks and recreation is the highest priority. We'd have to be spending our money. We might be having to figure out with more limited resources now this tax is tagged for parks and recreation. So I just think it doesn't give the parks and recreation, it doesn't put them on a level playing field with the need for all the rest of the needs in the city, where the highest priority of things gets funded, because it's going to get funded because that's how that tax is. Does that make sense? So anyway, so those are kind of my things. I'll get them clear for the opposite statement, but that's
really good to know.
that's
Thank
what
you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kay. Appreciate the helpful additional background and certainly value your research and opinion on that. So as Wayne mentioned, please let us know what, we'd be happy to provide this information.
I was gonna say, could we get that?
Sure.
So we can kind of look over it? I think
Yeah,
that'd be
as
great.
you
Helpful.
consider a
And
position.
Hallie,
on
I'd
this as
like
well.
to get her art opinion as well. If you could just shoot us a paragraph on
Your thoughts there.
yeah, that would be helpful.
If I could just say one thing regarding the possibility of the school board supporting this. I hope this doesn't come across as feeling like there needs to be a quid pro quo on the school board bond. I mean, I think that made perfect sense for us since it was a citywide benefit, to support that. And I certainly wouldn't be offended if you didn't feel like this was part of your mission to support this or whatever. So just want to get that out there.
Thank you, Dave.
Next, we'll move to a discussion that will be presented by David Walter, our Director of Redevelopment for the city, and we'll talk about the currently proposed CDA in downtown Provo. Dave?
Good afternoon. So again, we were talking about the development of essentially 4 blocks in the downtown area that actually the courts are looking to build a new facility. And as it's currently proposed, they would build it now on the old Freedom Plaza block. And you were kind enough to adopt a CDA and put interlocal agreements in for that. Because the court is going to go on that block right now, that wouldn't give us much any benefit
Can
to
whoever's working
tax.
the computer, like, put the cursor on what block you're talking about?
Sure.
Like, what's it going on right there? Oh, sorry, I just thought somebody had a cursor or something.
We do.
Oh.
I'll use my finger, that's okay. Dave, don't use, that's so old school, man, don't use your finger. I did once. Don't do it again.
Is that the Sears building then?
This is the RC block, so,
Or RC building?
yeah, so,
As you're giving your age away.
real quick, I was standing in the way blocking it. So, this is the block here that the courts are planning to be on, and then the courts would exchange this property to the city, we would exchange it to the developer. There would be a new hotel proposed here. We're working to put some additional retail and residential on these two blocks. And Land Applied Technology would go here. So the parking structure that would serve the courthouse for residential, not all the residential, portion of residential and the retail is slated to sit right about here, and that's what we're looking to put the tax increment and our sales tax increment in to develop. We sort of have an obligation with the county to provide additional parking for the convention center. And I know that the county has looked for a second hotel in the downtown for quite some time, so this is a great opportunity for us to kind of meet both of those requirements here. So we're asking you to consider eliminating this community development area and adopting a new one that would cover these three blocks. And I think I provided Ms. Bryant with the spreadsheets that we referred to last time. They came our calculations.
Have you disclosed which hotel property yet or no?
Not yet, yeah.
And we're having this discussion Tuesday morning. So we'll go into.
So, yeah.
You guys covered it pretty good when you came in.
Yeah, we have it on our board docs. We just all need to go study it.
So if there's any other questions that you might have or what we're looking at, so I'd be happy to answer those.
Worked you over the other
The
day.
existing CDA, is that in the agreement that just drops off?
Yeah, I think we're gonna ask you to eliminate that. We would just provide that to the county. Because right now you did adopt CDA and you did adopt an interlocal agreement. So in order to not muddy the waters with the county, we're proposing to eliminate that CDA and put the new one in place.
So, it's going to provide parking for the courthouse and residential and
The hotel.
The
The hotel primarily and for what would be Mountain Land Applied Technology College. So those students, parking is going to kind of sit here. There'll be some additional parking, and then the retail will kind of sit here. At one time, we considered abandoning this second north and building on top of it. However, there are some significant infrastructure costs that would be incurred if we did that. So we worked it out. We met with our engineering people, and they were kind enough to suggest that if we just did a service parking here with a utility easement on there, that would be sufficient for allowing access in case they needed it.
And the 3 years are going to be, would be proposed the school district, the city, the county.
County, right.
But
And the water district.
so METC and the hotel and the market or whatever it is that you said, the retail have no community for this.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
I
you
think
know
they
what I mean?
will. They will, actually.
Because they're giving that. For the park, I'm not understanding that. Like, how is the parking structure going to be paid for just out of those 3 entities? But it's not
Right.
like there's going to be at least 5 entities that are going to be using it.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. I just don't know. I mean, we're going to be taking a look at, actually, we're contemplating an integrated parking management plan for all of our downtown and how we pay for the maintenance, ongoing maintenance for the different structures, and how that coordinates now with the proposed new structure. But, there would be,
Would the parking belong to the city or would the parking belong to the retailer and the hotel? Maybe that
it would belong to the city.
And we're just giving them a tax break. We're not giving them any incentives on that tax break.
No,
So their skin in the game is they're shutting out for the buildings. right? That's their.
Yeah.
They're-
That's
So it's
everybody's,
not-
that's everybody's skin in the game
They're getting the tax rate.
whenever they build anything.
Not everything.
Well, they're not,
You
But
know,
on the
they're not
airport-
technically getting a tax break, so they'll still pay all of their taxes, and they're not.
it just goes into paying for
But
that.
the tax increment would go back
Goes
into
back.
there, right?
Right.
Yeah,
They're
we're
just
not-
getting a parking structure.
They're gonna be parking structures. So, but the parking structure is also gonna help serve the convention center.
So wait, who's paying for the parking structure?
The city's paying with the tax
City.
increment.
There you go.
The school
There you go.
district
I see.
and the county.
I see your question.
So Dave, is 200 North then vacated, even though it still goes through the parking lot? Is it vacated as a public street?
It would probably be vacated as a public street and would just become like a surface park.
Kind of like 300 North?
Correct,
Through
the way
the
300 sits now,
Yeah.
we'll probably reopen 300, close this off, but we have the utility easement for that.
Yeah, okay.
And so as part of the spreadsheet, did you send like revenue projections too as to what we'll be getting in the future as compared to what we're getting now?
Yes.
And how much we'll be giving
Yes.
up?
That was,
Okay.
yeah, that was she wanted to-
And we also ran the calculation where if it actually more,
Yeah, those numbers are, and I kind of summarized them on one of the documents. Start here, so.
So, not meaning to, I don't know, just reiterate the benefits for the district, how it helps our mission, and also would, in the entity that's coming in, either of those two, be willing to partner with the district in any way, in terms of, I don't know, internships or.
no, I'm sure they would,
admissions
yes.
or-
Yeah, I'm sure that, and we would suggest that to them, that when they expand, that they would be looking for a way to work with the district.
Has anyone crunched the employment numbers? How many patrons would be employed with the new developments going in?
We've requested estimates of the employments from both the retailer and from the hotel. Haven't gotten those yet.
Okay, that would
This
be
is not,
interesting.
this would not be a full-service hotel similar to the Marriott, but it would be along the lines of a Hilton Garden Inn or a higher-end Hyatt product, just not the top-of-the-line full-service hotel. But, I mean, the nice thing about this is that these 3 blocks right here are, well, 2.5 are primarily city and government owned. The state owns this, redevelopment agency owns most of this, and Smiths obviously owns their own, so.
How long did the CDA run?
We'd asked for 15, I would.
So after 15 years, the increment will go back on the tax rolls and supplement your budgets.
Well, thank you, Dave. Appreciate the update
Any
and
other,
clarifying comments. And so Julie, you said you'll see this on your agenda next
Mhm.
Tuesday?
Yep, Tuesday morning.
All right, great, thank you.
And we do have, Stephanie said the documents are in board docs, so everybody look that over.
Great. We'll turn to Matt Taylor now for a discussion on the new drug campaign resolution.
Supposed to try and bring Kim in one more time for this. I'll get started while we see if she answers this time. She may still be out of service. I'll go in.
Responding.
Hello?
Hi, Kim. This is Matt.
Hi.
We're going to start the discussion on the Fight the New Drug resolution.
Okay, great.
And actually, this is a draft resolution that we prepared based off some input. But I actually would turn the time over to Kim if it's possible for you to speak about how this arose and the interest in joint resolution.
Okay. In our last joint meeting, I can't remember which board member mentioned that we were looking to have this program presented in all schools, and I think that there was an interest in getting council involved, and I think at that point there might have been financial interest as well, I'm not sure, but we had talked about it, we had a discussion about it, and then in the meantime, you had a donor come to you and offered to pay to have that presented. I'm hoping I'm remembering this correctly, but we were unsure whether or not we still wanted to have a joint resolution in support of bringing this to the schools. Seems like a good thing for the council to discuss and talk about supporting, and wondered if the school board wanted us to join in that effort, or if you had other ideas about how you wanted us to be involved.
I think one thing we can clarify.
Julie, maybe say who you
Oh,
are.
okay, sorry.
Yes.
Hey, Kim, this is Julie. How are you?
Hi, Julie. Great.
Good. I think, I'm trying to remember back to that meeting. I don't remember exactly, but this is something that, because of a grant that Fight the New Drug has received, the big question of financial support and how it was going to be funded has kind of been taken care of. And it's something that, in that meeting, if I remember right, we kind of verbally agreed that it's a worthwhile endeavor. And Marcia, do you remember kind of how the discussion, I don't remember, frankly, how the discussion of a joint resolution was broached. I don't remember. It's certainly not something we're opposed to by any stretch, but I don't know that we've had much conversations.
I think that something that a concern I have, which would be not important, is that supporting Fight the New Drug as an entity itself could be problematic because there's other good organizations out there.
And Marcia, if I could address it, we also, again, we were going very limited input, and so really this resolution is just something for you to react to.
Okay.
It's not intended to be, it's not intended to be final or just something to get a discussion going. But we recognize the same issue, and so the way this is drafted is it does reference some of the evidence they've compiled, but it's also been trying to drafted to support any organization, group, individual that is engaged in awareness of the issues associated with pornography.
And even that second whereas, I can see that. I just read through it this week, and I don't know, just there are other organizations that have also compiled evidence, and so to limit it to one organization,
and they communicate evidence. They go elsewhere and go, oh, these people have done a study. They haven't really, they haven't gathered per se. They communicate. They're a communication organization. They communicate very well. Certainly, I would, as part of the resolution, I would say, we endorse this particular program. But I would want to leave it open if a PTA went, you know what, this other group or this we'd like to have these people in. I wouldn't want to limit them. And the way we're trying to handle it from the school is that we're letting our community organizations really decide in the school. We're letting them, as far as time, the scheduling and when that happens. We're not saying you will do this, you will. We're saying this is we endorse it and we say this is a good thing. Consider it.
Well, and I think we even went slightly further and said we encourage it.
Right.
We would like to see it happen.
Yes.
But we did kind of thought, talk within the schools, talk to your PTAs, talk to community councils, make sure that in your particular school, and at this point, I know Provo High has some of them scheduled. And
Provo High is scheduled. Timpview is looking at, they're exploring with Centennial whether or not they do one each or whether they combine. Provo High is likely going to combine with Dixon, and Independence High School right now has one booked.
So we're going down this path, and I think we'll see these happen in our schools. And I haven't heard any pushback at all. I think, generally speaking, the community seems to be supportive, and I think that the support from the City Council is fantastic. I do agree with what's already been said that maybe not referencing this particular company, but other than that, I think this is great.
Okay, so if I could just ask a question, I think the first objective of this discussion is to determine for both the council members, because I think many of the council members haven't had an opportunity to really weigh in on their interests as well, and to determine a joint interest in taking this to the next step. If there is a joint interest in doing some of a joint resolution, then a dialogue about what should actually be in it. And so if those two questions could be answered today, well, I don't think you need to answer the second question. If you answer the first question, then you can continue the dialogue about the content.
Taz, were you about to make
I was a different topic. I was going to go more to the background of the whole thing, which is, you said, Kim, there's a grant that's funding. Can you comment on the grant? Is it funding specifically the new drug?
I actually, I believe it's Zions Bank that came forward to fight the new drug organization and said, we will fund any of these programs, I think in Utah, that until the money runs out. And so what the Fight the New Drug people had indicated to me was get them scheduled. If you want them, and Zions Bank has provided the grant, we'll fund it. And so that our big question marks was how the community going to feel about it, and where's the funding going to come from. Funding was taken care of. And then when we talked to the schools and said, find out what your communities think, by and large, I mean, I haven't heard any negative reactions. It seems to be all very supportive, and that's why we're down the path of get it scheduled before the money is gone. That's a one-year thing.
Support as the, us being a supportive role to your efforts, and the way that the council endorses things is one of the ways is by resolution. So, but by no means is that the only way that we can provide support. However, I saw this being your leading this effort, and we were just trying to find a way that we could see as a council was supportive of your efforts. And this is one way that we, as council, can show support for something is by resolution or by joint resolution. So. And
maybe the fact that the funding has been provided by Zions Bank, the other prong on the concern was community, whether they're going to be for it. This resolution would obviously address the other concern that was mentioned in that meeting.
But it would help with individual. I would still want to approach individual schools.
Well,
because
sure.
There are people who aren't familiar. They go, "Why are you talking about pornography in the school and school time?" And I do think a resolution would be from the city to say, this,
right?
Just in case you haven't gone through it. City council looked at it and said this is a good thing. Our school board looks at it and you said it's a good thing. You should at least look at it without just thinking we're dropping, we're taking up your school time in an inappropriate way.
Without any deliberate thought.
Right.
Process.
So that's the value I see in doing this, and I think what you've drafted here, Matt, looks great.
Dave?
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, I really appreciate the school board taking this up. I know a couple of us were really excited about this and encouraged that it be discussed at a couple of our previous joint meetings. And so I think our desire is just to be helpful. If the school board feels that this would be helpful, I'm totally on board with it, but I don't want anyone to feel like this is something that we're necessarily pushing. So that would be my comment.
Any other comments? All right.
If you have specific suggestions about the content, we'll put out an email to each of you with this attached.
Okay.
And give us feedback, and we can bounce that back and forth a little bit before we just conform on the agenda.
Fantastic.
Sounds great.
Thank you for your work on this. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll move to Julie Rash and a discussion on hazardous routes to schools.
Okay. As school is starting, has started, transportation conversations are increasingly popular. And so I think Marcia wanted, she's the one that requested we put this on here based on partially you guys may have seen in the paper, Marcia and Stephanie went on a field trip. And so I'll let her kind of talk specifically about what she wanted to mention to you.
Okay, feel free to jump in anytime, Stephanie.
And tell us if you want any map help there too, Marcia.
Okay,
I might help to pull it up.
Sure, you can pull up the route if you want. It's Carterville. Well, first one I'm going to talk about is Carterville area.
And while this is pulling up, I'll mention that we have had.
State Street. Go up State Street, way over that way.
There we go.
I think what Marcia is going to be talking about applies to a lot, like this. Sure. This one's very indicative. This is the one they went and walked, but I've actually talked to a couple other pages. They're wanting, my understanding, Keith or Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, in the state funds are transportation, and there's criteria that the routes have to meet.
The criteria
and
is
if
2 miles for high school, secondary, and then 1.5 miles for elementary.
And if a route doesn't meet, and then there has to be a certain number of kids at different stops, and if the route doesn't meet the criteria, the state's not funding it.
Right.
We have the option to say, we will declare this a hazardous route, then we get to fund it.
And there are routes that we declare hazardous, and they're like underneath the freeway, and then crossing railroad tracks.
What happened was the state came in and looked at our routes and said, you've got some routes that aren't meeting the criteria, we can't fund you for them anymore. Some of them are over in the Dixon area, and the kids have to cross railroad tracks, they have to go underneath the freeway, and the board elected to continue some of those routes because of those hazards at our cost. The Carterville area was one that we looked at and said, we don't know that we can justify it as a hazardous route and continue to pay those costs.
So anyway, and it's the high school route to Provo High School, and it's about 1.5 miles. Their concerns were, and I mean, we're in sympathy of people who have to walk long distances in the dark or whatever. So we're in sympathy, but I'm not sure that this is the most hazardous route that we should be funding. But they mentioned this. We walked to 1720 north, and then we came down State Street, the other one here, and there are a big long stretch of apartments that are kind of up on a berm up there, and then the sidewalk doesn't get shoveled in the winter because it's the responsibility of the property owners, but they don't care because really it's completely separate from where they are situated.
That's Crestview, I think, right? Crestview Apartments.
Yeah, that one right there. No, because they walk right.
They walk in front of that.
And that's.
Oh, I said 1720. I said 1720. Let's see. I am not a map reader. Stephanie, are you good? I seriously have dyslexia. So
we came down 1720. That hill right there where the cursor's at.
No, we came down 1850. We came down 1850 because right here they didn't like all this right here.
Yeah.
Kind of really
So that's Cascade. That's that Cascade, I think.
Yeah, we came down here and down this way, and it's all this sidewalk all along here that doesn't get shoveled. And there's even a hill that goes up, so you can't even really see. But there is sidewalk all the way down. And then another concern they had was going into Macy's, the in and outs of Macy's parking lot, which you know can be really problematic. Like the little one right here, because cars just, and I don't know what you can do there, but there could be possibly a crossing guard, or, and I know it's the city's responsibility to do crossing guards, and then also the zoning. And anyway, what can we tell these parents?
Can we do anything with speed limits on
Yeah.
Can we do anything to mitigate the hazard along this route?
Okay, so there's one route, and the other route that's been brought to our attention recently is on Geneva Road, because it's all kind of the same. I think the Geneva Road, I know that's a state road and not the city's responsibility, but still.
Isn't State Street also, 89 is a state road?
But shoveling walks would be the city's responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, I don't know that there'd be any zoning or anything, but
So
she's in
apartments
this
right
new
there.
little place right here.
And there's apartments on the corner now.
Right there.
Yeah.
She doesn't show, but they're right
And
there.
then she has to walk to get the bus.
Right by the church, isn't it?
No, it's not by the church, it's past the church.
Oh.
Yeah, you thought it was by the church, that's why you thought it was short.
Yeah.
But it's down here. So it's like a mile down Geneva Road.
And what?
9 miles, I think.
To take the bus to Provo High?
Yeah, and
To Dixon. To Dixon.
And this particular one, right now it's one student. That's why the bus doesn't go up there, because
right, because there's not funded unless there's 10 students.
And how much, let them know how much it costs to fund that route.
That route,
well, but just to pick,
I know we are funding 130,000 in hazardous routes. and another 50,000 in routes for gifted intelligence.
So that excludes these two routes. You're funding.
Right.
Right.
Not supported by the transportation.
But Geneva, I mean, that's a real problem to be walking.
Geneva has no.
And she's a
no-
seventh grader.
No shoulder.
We're talking to
Shoulder,
12-year-olds.
I just forwarded to Stephanie, when I was visiting Drew Daniels yesterday at Lakeview, he mentioned that there is a new, I believe, federal grant that has just come out, asking for proposals for improving, so did you review that quickly?
I did. I saw that this morning too, and I actually am calling them.
Yeah, so we need to partner with the city on this, but together we could potentially petition in this granting process to get some sidewalks along Geneva. And that's really the number
There were
one important
sidewalks
issue.
that would be-
Well, there is a sidewalk part of the way.
Part of the
There's
way.
hardly- But they're not
Right.
well kept up either. They're like,
Well, they're outside of fences, and so the residents aren't taking, yeah, it's.
and then there's also one other area, I know when I was trying to do the safe routing for Dixon, is that very narrowing of the road on 800 North, where the bridge is, it crosses over the river. You have bike lanes, I ride that on my bike all the time, so you've got these bike lanes that are super nice, and then suddenly you've got a bike lane that's, you know, foot wide. And we've got kids that have to walk to Dixon, or, you know, don't have to walk, they get a ride probably, but that is the walking and biking route, is right along there.
narrows there, yeah.
You know, especially like right here, it totally narrows, I don't know, I think it's.
One of the other concerns,
Thursday.
especially of the people up in the Carterville neighborhood, is predators in the neighborhoods. It's where, I can't remember the gal's name, went missing, another girl's been beaten.
I mean, we have
right?
apartments across on that
And
trail.
I don't know if there's anything we can do differently with patrolling during those hours that they're walking to and from school. We're just kind of trying to find some answers from these people to say, we're doing everything we can to make this a safe route. And we're,
I know zoning's having a hard time right now anyway, it's last two people, and just like we were talking at the SAP lunch, whatever. about zoning,
Right.
so.
Well, let us note those neighborhoods and then visit with administration to see what tools we have available to us to increase safety and awareness along those routes. And
and as I begin looking at the grant that Keith was just referring to, if there's, you know, if there's somewhere where the city can help us, I'll certainly reach out to the appropriate people.
So my thinking is maybe, Wayne, we can route that information to you and then you can direct us to the right person.
that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, thanks, Julie. Great item. Lastly, we have an update from Dave Graves on road construction projects. I know some of you have 1:30 appointments, so we'll try to wrap up in 10 minutes. And but feel free to slip out if we get too close. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Wasn't really sure kind of what you were looking for, so you can ask me or we can direct this discussion another way. Every year we do an overlay project which mills and looks at some sidewalk issues along those roads that we're taking care of. In that process right now, we're within about a week or two of wrapping that project up. The only road that probably affects a school route that's remaining on that is 3700 North from University Avenue up to Canyon Road. That road is scheduled to be paved next week. There's a barrier on the north side of that road as you go up the hill that kind of helps to protect those on the sidewalk. Right now that has been moved back on the sidewalk, so it's a little bit precarious with pedestrians, but within about a week that should be opened back up and taken
So
care
this
of.
will be under construction for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's the Tippy Car Wash Hill, correct?
Yes.
That's what we refer to it as.
Yeah, going up toward
Okay.
Timview High School
Those
and
kids come to
Edgemont on
Tippy
that
next
street.
month.
There's also, kind of back out on that Geneva Road area, we do have a safe sidewalk project that we received some funding from the state that's from 1390 north southward on the east side of the road. That project has been under construction. It's within about 2 weeks of being completed as well. If in the grant process, if you find some additional funds in that area that we can assist with, we'd be happy to do that. On the existing project, UDOT provided some money, and they every year go through a process, but it's really quite a cumbersome process. But we're happy to provide a match for a grant, some of those kinds of things, if we can find that. We absolutely love to participate in that area. There's a couple other projects, probably to make you aware of. Our West Side Connector project, which is a road out to the airport, had a fairly high impact on the Sunset area last year as we were hauling material out into there. That project, I think most of the hauling is completed, so we're hoping that that shouldn't be too much of an impact on, on the routes to school as children are, going out through that area.
When will that road be done?
We're looking right now that it'll probably be open spring of 2016. So probably 9 months away right now.
Where is it? Goes from the interchange.
It's not on there.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay, I was gonna say, I thought it would.
So it starts from there.
So it actually comes right from the interchange and goes west out to the.
And it just goes to the airport, but that's not Lake Shore between Center Street and the airport, right?
Right, and we have another project that we have funded currently that goes from the airport north to Center Street. And that
But that's not set in stone yet, like the.
Well, that money, yes, it is designed. The money's available in January. So in the spring of next year, we will have some continued construction out in that area on that. And that will complete. There's a pedestrian trail and pathway along that entire corridor. And so that should help as far as pedestrians having some help. Sure. Okay. A couple of projects that are kind of in the early stages that are going to impact some of the schools out on 1500 West in the Grandview area. We have a water transmission line that will likely begin construction in the next few weeks. It will be mainly out in the roadway, but could have some impacts on sidewalks, and so there may want to be some coordination with the elementary school and, talking with children.
Was that, Dave?
Along 1500 West from, I think it actually goes from 1700 North to 900 North on 1500 West.
And by Ivy Hall.
Mm-hmm. We have sure most of you have probably heard some of the discussions on the BRT project. They're actually looking to get a designer and a general contractor on board. They are hoping to begin construction on some phases of that project as early as this fall. Mainly, the early construction is anticipated to be on University Parkway from 800 East in Orem to University Avenue in Provo. But as we move into next spring, there is likely to be work along University Parkway, along 700 North in Provo. That will probably be the biggest impact. I'm not sure what the school route is in that area, but it's certainly something that we're going to want to take a look at because that is likely to be a full reconstruction of that roadway and could close not only the road but the sidewalks as well. And then also beginning in probably March of next year in the Joaquin area on 300 South, UDOT is doing a reconstruction on 300 South from University Avenue to 700 East. And that will be a full rebuild of that roadway. When it's done, it will be nice. It'll have kind of a bicycle pedestrian pathway along the north side of the roadway. It will provide 2 signalized crossings on 300 South for pedestrians and vehicles. So I think if we can get through the initial construction, it'll probably be good, but that one likely could impact, some of the student traffic in that area.
That won't close entirely, right, Dave?
No, and that'll be phased so so that pedestrian and vehicle traffic can continue to get through there. If you have bus routes and some of those kind of things, they should be able to get through there, but there may be some delays.
Are these projects summarized anywhere on the city site, or can you just send me this just so I can put it in front of my transportation director?
Yes, most of them are, we do have, in fact, I can give you a copy of a newsletter thing that we do on a monthly basis and provide to the city council on project updates. We very easily copy you on that every month to give you a continued update that you can share with the school board. A couple of the projects, the BRT project is actually a project administered by UTA, and so all of the data associated with that is available on their website. And then the 300 South project is a UDOT project, and it's available on their website as well.
What about the project on Canyon Road, Dave, by the stadium? Is that our project?
That shut
Their
down.
project?
Will that be open?
No, but the game will be
Yeah,
back in the next 2 months.
We're in the process right now of replacing the major water line and storm drain line from University Parkway to 2100 North on Canyon Road. The projected date for completion is September 10th, which is 2 days before the first BYU football home game.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. So we're not sweating that one at all. We couldn't start it until after the stadium afire. And so it was like, okay, contract, you've got 8 weeks to do all this work. And so they're making very good progress, but it's likely next year with our overlay project that we will be redoing sidewalks and streets from University Parkway to 2230 North.
Oh, that'd be great.
On that area.
That's kind of the city wampus.
Initially, we weren't planning to do that, but as we got out there and started doing some of the utility work, the sidewalks in terrible shape.
We'd love to be on one.
Like a dirt road anyway.
Yeah.
There's a bus route on Foothill, and it's, Foothill's under construction.
Yes, there's a project to put a storm drain line on Foothill. The utility work is completed in Foothill, and I was told that they will be paving that next week. So that should be fully opened up next week. The project actually does continue up Windsor Drive for about 2 or 3 blocks to the east. They've got another 4 weeks of construction up in there, and that project will be completed as well. I think that's kind of the major projects we got going on that are impacting.
We'll get a copy of that to you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Dave. And thanks again to all of you for your participation and input and discussion today. Very helpful. And thanks for, at the beginning of this new school year, for your service and help and support of our kids and education here in this community. We'll see you on November 12th, Thursday, November 12th, our next meeting.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gary. We appreciate the time and effort you guys put into this.